Why intelligent people scare society, Schopenhauer, the pain of seeing too much. Have you ever felt like your thoughts run deeper than the world is willing to dive? Like you're carrying a truth too heavy for surface conversations? In this video, we explore the emotional and philosophical reality of being a deep thinker in a world that rewards conformity over clarity. This isn't just theory, it's a mirror for your experience. We dive into why society fears what it does not understand, how intelligence can lead to isolation, and what it truly means to find peace within rather than seek it in the noise outside. This journey is for those who have ever felt too quiet, too deep, or too different. Stay with us as we uncover not only why you feel the way you do, but how that very sensitivity is your strength, not your flaw. When deep thinking is no longer a gift but a silent burden. Have you ever felt that the more you think, the more distance grows between you and the world? That each new realization you reach only deepens your sense of isolation? You are not imagining it. For many deep thinkers, intelligence does not feel like a blessing. It feels like a burden they cannot share. This burden is not loud. It is not violent. It is quiet. A silent weight pressing down when you walk into a room full of people and instantly sense that no one really sees the world the way you do. You do not dislike others. You simply carry thoughts too vast, too complex to translate into everyday conversation. So you hold them in. You smile. You nod. And you shrink. Over time, that shrinking becomes a habit. You start doubting whether speaking up is even worth it. The tragedy is not that you are too different. The tragedy is that society often has no place for a mind that sees too much, too clearly. But does this mean you must live disconnected? Not necessarily. Sometimes, what isolates you is also what awakens you. Pain can be a passage. If you listen closely to the silence, you may find it is not emptiness at all. It is space. Space to return to yourself. To heal. To question not your value but your direction. Deep thinking does not ruin you. It reveals you. The real Stein is not why you feel distant, but who you become when you walk through that distance instead of running from it. The mirror that reflects others' minds. Why are deep thinkers often alienated? Have you ever wondered why people grow uncomfortable around someone who barely says a word yet seems to notice everything? It is not what you say that unsettles them. It is who you are. Deep thinkers often act like mirrors. Not the kind that flatter but the kind that reveal. In your presence people are reminded of what they do not understand, what they avoid, what they are afraid to confront. Even in silence you speak to their insecurities. You do not intend to. You do not judge. But your awareness carries weight. It exposes the shallow games others play without even realizing. When someone sees more than they are supposed to, people feel seen in ways they did not ask for. This is not about arrogance. It is about reflection. The mind that perceives deeply becomes a quiet force. And that quietness can be intimidating. Not because it is loud but because it cannot be ignored. You may notice the discomfort. The glances. The subject change. The awkward pauses. This is the mirror effect. It is not rejection of you. It is resistance to what you represent. To see the world clearly is to remind others that they are still looking through fog. And not everyone is ready for clarity. Yet in being that mirror you offer a gift. The chance to wake up. To feel. To grow. The question is not how to be less intimidating. The question is how to stay true without shrinking. Because the world does not need more noise. It needs more mirrors. The paradox of intelligence, the more you understand the harder it is to connect. Intelligence offers clarity, but clarity comes at a cost. The more you see, the more you question. And the more you question, the harder it becomes to participate in the usual flow of life. Conversations that once felt engaging now feel repetitive. Goals that once seemed meaningful now seem hollow. It is not that you have grown cold or distant. It is that your mind no longer accepts surface-level truths. When you understand too much, you often feel too much. And with that sensitivity comes a sense of separation. You notice the games people play to feel accepted. You sense the fears behind their words. You see through the distractions they use to avoid themselves. This awareness does not make you better. It makes you lonelier. Because connection thrives on similarity. And when your inner world becomes too different from the outer world around you, the bridge between you and others begins to weaken. This is the paradox. Intelligence gives you the tools to understand people, but also the insight to realize how often they hide from themselves. It brings you closer to truth but further from belonging. Many thinkers wrestle with this divide, unsure whether to keep reaching out or to turn inward. But maybe the answer is not to choose one or the other. Maybe it is to create new kinds of bridges. One's built not on sameness but on shared willingness to go deeper together. When intelligence triggers the brain's survival instincts, most people think of intelligence as an advantage. And in many ways it is. But what few realize is that intelligence also activates something ancient in the human brain. A deep-rooted instinct to protect the group and reject what feels unfamiliar. In early human history, survival depended less on being the smartest and more on being accepted. Those who fit in lived. Those who questioned too much risked exile. This instinct still exists. When someone introduces ideas that challenge the group's beliefs, the brain does not just hear disagreement. It senses danger. The amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for fear, lights up. This reaction is not logical. It is primal. A deeply intelligent person may say something insightful, but if it threatens the group's harmony, they may be silenced, not because they are wrong but because they trigger discomfort. The brain reacts to intellectual threat the same way it reacts to physical with resistance. With withdrawal. This is why many deep thinkers are met not with curiosity but with quiet tension. Their words stir something ancient. Not just thought but fear. Understanding helps you see that the resistance you face is not always personal. Sometimes you are speaking to a part of people that has not evolved to feel safe with depth. But your presence can still plant Not all growth is immediate. Some truth must disturb before it can awaken. Intelligence and the crowd, the more people, the more out of place you feel. In small conversations, intelligence can be welcome. People are more open, more relaxed, more willing to listen. But in group settings, something shifts. A deep thinker no longer feels like a contributor but a disruption. Why does this happen? In groups, social status becomes visible. People compare. They worry about how the why are seen. When someone speaks with unusual depth, others might not react to the content but to how it makes them feel. Suddenly their own ideas seem less impressive. Their confidence wavers. And instead of leaning in, they pull away. This reaction is rarely conscious. It is a defense of status. In group dynamics, we value agreement more than insight. The one who challenges norms, even respectfully, is often excluded. Not for being wrong but for breaking the social rhythm. The more intelligent you appear, the more carefully people measure their words. The conversation becomes cautious, not curious. This is why many intelligent people prefer solitude or one-on-one exchange. It is not arrogance. It is relief. A way to speak without triggering the silent politics of group perception. But isolation is not the only option. The key is not to suppress depth but to sense when and where it can truly be received. Intelligence does not need a crowd. It needs space. It needs presence. And it needs the ears to hear it. The digital world and the death of depth. The internet promised connection but delivered distraction. Social media was meant to bring voices together but often rewards only those who speak the loud. Not the wisest. Deep ideas rarely go viral. Algorithms are built for engagement, not understanding. They favor speed over silence, emotion over reflection. A thoughtful message is buried beneath noise. For deep thinkers, this world can feel suffocating. Not because they lack something to say but because the space to say it is shrinking. Attention spans grow shorter. Outrage spreads faster than and complexity is seen as a flaw, not a strength. The digital age punishes depth with invisibility. But the problem is not technology itself. It is how we use it. When content becomes performance, truth is reduced to entertainment. But there is another way. You do not need to speak to millions to make meaning. One honest thought shared in the right moment can shift a life. The digital world may be loud, but you still have a voice. And sometimes it is the quietest voice that carries the deepest truth. Schopenhauer, the man who dared to call intelligence a curse. Arthur Schopenhauer did not see intelligence as a path to happiness. He saw it as a path to sorrow. While many celebrated the mind as a gift, he called it a burden. In his view, the smarter a person is, the more they suffer. Why? Because intelligence reveals too much. It removes illusions that others depend on to feel content. The intelligent do not see the world as they wish it to be. They see it as it is. And often that view is bleak. Schopenhauer believed most people are driven by the will to live, an unconscious force chasing plea. Sure, avoiding pain. But the deep thinker is different. Instead of following instinct, they seek truth. Even when it hurts. This pursuit creates distance. What comforts others may seem meaningless to them. While most chase success, deep thinkers question its purpose. They feel disconnected not by choice but by perception. Schopenhauer called this the cost of awareness. To understand life deeply is to lose the illusions that make it easier. Intelligence then is not simply power. It is also weight. A clarity that often feels like loneliness. Sowing the seeds of self-understanding, Schopenhauer's remedy for the lonely mind. Schopenhauer did not only diagnose the pain of the deep thinker. He also offered a way to live with it. His first lesson was to embrace solitude. Not as a punishment but as a sanctuary. Solitude gives the mind space to breathe, to reflect, to create. It is not isolation if it brings you closer to yourself. Second, he urged thinkers to stop seeking validation from the crowd. Most people cannot understand what they have never experienced. Their rejection is not a reflection of your worth but a result of their limits. Third, he advised careful sharing. Not every truth needs to be spoken to everyone. Wisdom includes knowing when to stay silent. The goal is not to be understood by all but to remain true to what you understand. Lastly, Schopenhauer encouraged finding like-minded souls. Through books, letters, or rare conversations, he believed connection was still possible, but only with those who value depth. These ideas are not just coping strategies. They are paths to inner strength. The world may not always make space for your mind, but you can. Solitude, when chosen, becomes clarity. Discernment becomes peace. And a single honest connection becomes enough to remind you that you are not alone. Why does society only honor intelligence after it's no longer a threat? Throughout history the same pattern repeats. Society resists what it does not understand, then praises it once it becomes safe. Galileo was silenced for revealing the truth about the universe. Now he is celebrated. Nietzsche was dismissed as dangerous. Now he shapes modern philosophy. Why does this happen? Because new ideas threaten comfort. They shake the foundations people build their lives upon. And most are not ready for that disruption. When a deep thinker introduces a truth too early, they are not met with applause but with fear. Their insights are seen as rebellion, not revelation. Only when time dulls the threat does society begin to listen. This delayed recognition is not proof of failure. It is a sign that the thinker was ahead of their time. But this reality can be painful. To be seen only after you are gone. Yet there is power in this understanding. It frees you from needing immediate approval. It reminds you that your truth has its own timing. You do not need to be accepted now to be meaningful. Some voices are not echoes of the present. They are seeds for the future. And their value is not lost just because it takes time to be seen. When education corporations and politics suppress independent thought, we are taught to believe that intelligence is valued. But in practice society often rewards something else. In schools students who memorize are praised while those who question are labeled disruptive. Obedience is rewarded more than originality. Independent thinkers are told to follow the rules, not to ask why they exist. In workplaces creativity is praised in theory but conformity is promoted in practice. Employees who challenge systems are seen as threats, not innovators. Their insights are silenced for the sake of harmony. Why or hierarchy? Politics follows the same pattern. Leaders who speak hard truths struggle to gain support. Those who simplify reality and say what people want to hear often rise faster. These systems are not broken. They are designed this way. Because challenging the norm risks disrupting comfort and control. But suppressing thought does not make it disappear. It drives it underground. It turns schools into factories, workplaces into echo chambers, and politics into theater. Intelligence is not the enemy of order. It is the beginning of renewal. But renewal requires courage. And courage is hard to mass produce. So if you feel like you do not fit in these systems, it may not be a flaw. It may be your signal. A reminder that you were made to think freely, not just to function. And sometimes thinking differently is not rebellion. It is responsibility. Those who see the future, but are rejected in the present. History is filled with names we now celebrate but once ignored or condemned. Socrates asked questions that challenged tradition. He was sentenced to death. Galileo revealed truths that contradicted powerful beliefs. He was silenced. Nietzsche exposed illusions people were not ready to face. He was dismissed as insane. Tesla dreamed of a world beyond profit. He died alone and poor. These thinkers saw farther not because they wanted to rebel but because they could not unsee what was true. Their vision did not fit the world they lived in. And so the world rejected them. But time eventually caught up. Their ideas shaped the very structures that once refused them. This is the fate of many deep thinkers. To speak a language the present does not yet understand. It is not failure. It is foresight. But foresight can feel like loneliness. To know where things are going and not be believed. To carry truth that others cannot yet hold. These thinkers did not stop. Because truth for them was not an option. It was a calling. If you feel out of place for what you see or feel, remember you are not the first. The world does not always reward early vision, but that vision is what pulls the world forward. You are not lost. You may simply be ahead. You're not too different, you're just seeing the world too early. It can be easy to believe you are the problem when you are always misunderstood. When your thoughts seem too heavy, your questions deep, your silence too loud. But what if the issue is not that you are too much but that others are not yet ready? Deep thinkers often carry truths that arrive before their time. This gap creates friction. Not because you are wrong but because the world moves slower than your awareness. You are not too different. You are just early. Early in seeing patterns, early in feeling shifts, early in sensing what others still avoid. And that early vision often feels like isolation. But isolation is not rejection. It is preparation. It gives you time to listen inward, to sharpen your clarity and to build the strength needed to stay true. The goal is not to be like everyone else. It is to stay connected to what matters even when others do not see it yet. Being early means walking alone at first. But it also means becoming a light for those who will one day catch up. You are not broken. You are becoming. And what feels like distance now may one day become direction. Emotional revival, understanding yourself, is the first step to healing. Healing does not begin with changing the world. It begins with understanding yourself. Many deep thinkers carry wounds they see and not name. Not from what was done to them but from years of feeling unseen, unheard, or misunderstood. These wounds are not always loud. They show up in self-doubt and hesitation, in the quiet belief that something must be wrong with them. But there is nothing wrong with feeling deeply. Sensitivity is not a flaw. It is a form of intelligence. The mind that notices too much often feels too much. This emotional weight is not weakness. It is a call to return to yourself. To tend to the parts of you that were never given space to breathe. Healing is not about fixing. It is about listening. Giving you our own emotions the attention they never received. When you understand your inner world, you stop needing the outer world to always make sense. You begin to trust your own rhythms, your own pace, your own truth. In that space, judgment fades. Compassion grows. And slowly the shame that once followed you begins to fall away. Healing is not a destination. It is a relationship with yourself. And understand. Is the doorway in. The meaning of life doesn't come from the crowd, but from daring to live authentically. Meaning is not something you find by following the crowd. It is something you uncover by being honest with yourself. Many people search for purpose in places that reflect approval but not truth. They chase titles, relationships, or routines because those paths are familiar. But comfort does not equal meaning. Real meaning often begins where certainty ends. It grows in moments of doubt, in choices made alone, in the quiet decision to stay true when it would be easier to conform. Living authentically is not easy. It may bring loneliness or misunderstanding. But it also brings clarity. It strips away what is false and reveals what endures. You do not need to have it all figured out to live with meaning. You only need to begin listening to what truly resonates with your inner voice. That voice is not loud. But it is honest. And when you honor it, you begin to live from the inside out. A life of meaning is not one that impresses others. It is one that connects you to what is real. To live that way is not selfish. It is sacred. Intelligence is not lonely, it just needs someone who understands its silence. Intelligence often feels like loneliness, not because it isolates you but because it waits for resonance. A mind that deeply does not want noise. It longs for presence. For connection that does not rush to speak but knows how to stay. Not everyone can meet you there. And that is not a failure. It is a filter. Intelligence listens before it answers. It observes before it acts. In a world that values speed and certainty, this quiet way of being is often misunderstood. But there is strength in stillness. And wisdom. In waiting. You are not alone just because you have not been fully heard. Some connections take time. Some understanding requires silence. Trust that your voice, even in its quietest form, carries value. Trust that those meant to hear you will. You do not need to be loud to be known. You only need to be real. The right people do not need you to explain everything. They feel what you mean. Intelligence does not seek the crowd. It seeks the few who truly listen. And in that listening it finally feels at home. If you've ever felt out of place because of how deeply you think or feel, know this: you are not broken, and you are not alone. The world may not always understand minds like yours, but that does not make your insights any less real, your presence any less needed, or your journey any less sacred. You were not made to fit into every space. You were made to bring light to the ones that need it most. So keep thinking deeply. Keep feeling fully. Keep walking your path, not to be seen by everyone, but to live in truth with yourself. Because in the quiet courage of being who you truly are, you become what the world needs most, even if it does not know it yet.